I would wonder if Chris Kreider made a guarantee in the Rangers locker room that he would win, that the Rangers would win this game, and then he went on to score that natural hat trick. I don't know if I'm suggesting too much or if Mark Messier somehow finds this video.
3, 2, 1, hey.
Wisecrackers.
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 Wisecrackers. Wisecrackers. Starting now.
Come on to the Wisecrackers Ice Hockey Arena. We are barred down and we sally hard to the conference finals of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. We're halfway there. Oh, living on a prayer. Bon Jovi, always a classic. Hello, everyone. I'm Alec. He is Redbox. How you doing on this fine Tuesday?
Well, pretty good. Excited for the conference finals. Excited to finally see a Canadian team back in the conference finals that's not the Montreal Canadiens.
You know that feel, all right. Well, conference finals, time is here. Our 4 teams are set for the Final Four. The New York Rangers representing the Metro Division, the Florida Panthers representing the Atlantic, the Dallas Stars representing the Central, and representing Canada and the Pacific Division, the Edmonton Oilers. So those are your Final Four teams. Second round is over and done with. And we look at the conference finals. Well, these may be 3 of the best teams in the National Hockey League. The Oilers, they're a really good team offensive-wise. Defensively, they've also improved. But there are questions to answer on down for the road. But we look to recap each one of these 4 series. Well, that Rangers-Canes series ended a little too quick. Let's be honest with ourselves.
And it probably could have ended quicker, if anything, too.
Yeah, it could have. Because the way the Rangers played, it felt like they were getting outworked by the Hurricanes at most points. But at the same time, they goalied the Hurricanes on most nights. If you look at Game 3, 42 saves by Igor Shesterkin. And the overtime winner for Artemi Panarin. Even Vincent Trocheck, he wanted a measure of revenge on his former team for double overtime winner on the power play. But what stands out to me, Carolina, with how good of a power play that they had, was completely neutralized. Just 2 power play goals all series in at least 17 attempts. And they allowed a shorthanded goal in Game 3 as well. That's not how you win a series. And it's very hard to come back from a 3-0 hole. But once they led 3-1, you would think that they would go on to hold it for a 7th game. But then I would wonder if Chris Kreider made a guarantee in the Rangers locker room that he would win, that the Rangers would win this game. And then he went on to score that natural hat trick. I don't know if I'm suggesting too much or if Mark Messier somehow finds this video.
Yeah, I think I was definitely expecting it to go at least 6. Even after Game 3, I figured they could still maybe find a way back, but the offense was just not there.
No. What doesn't help is that even when we learned about them acquiring a big name goal scorer, Carolina lacks that oomph on the superstar talent. I mean, closest player they have to a superstar is Sebastian Aho, but he's not a superstar by means of how we measure him. That's unfortunately the sad truth.
Yeah.
The Canes don't have a superstar.
Yeah. They're a very deep team, but they don't have a clear number 1 guy.
Yeah, that's what we learned about them. It's not a queer superstar player that they have to take them over the top. They have some pieces, but their number 1 is a mid-tier number 1. I'm not sure if Aho can reach that next level that can place him among the league's elite. But we don't see him somewhere at the level of other Metro Division number 1 centers like Jack Hughes, Sidney Crosby, or the team that they lost to, Mika Zibanejad, for example.
I feel like Aho's always tried to be that guy. He just hasn't ever really been able to fully fit into the role.
I mean,
I
he
don't know.
tried to, and he likes Rod Brind'Amore's system, and he's comfortable playing it as it is. I mean, he signed that 8-year deal. But Carol, I just don't know what it is with Carolina. They are a nice defensive team. It's been goaltending for them that's also on and off. The offense can be there for them at times, but goaltending is on and off. It has been evidenced throughout the season. Freddie Anderson, Pyotr Kochetkov, not a bad 1-2 punch, but goaltenders that are at least 33 years old, they tend to lose the luster that they once had in their peak form, and I feel that's sadly happening to Freddie.
You could say it happened to Freddie a long time ago, but I think you just can't expect that kind of performance consistently for the 4 rounds from a 33-year-old, most 33-year-old goalies. Maybe not all, but yeah.
You'll be wondering if Kochetkov can fill in at the number one starting goaltender spot for the Hurricanes. I mean, he did get a start in Game 3, and he played his hardest. Unfortunately, I didn't think he was expecting a tip-in from right between the legs from the bread man. I mean, how are you supposed to stop that? It's basically an impossible shot to stop.
Exactly.
Oh, my word. But we were expecting a 6-game series, and we did get a 6-game series between the Rangers and Hurricanes, but the Rangers, they were the better of the two teams between them. Their power play clicked, especially the first 2 games, and even though it was off in games 3 through 5, they still stood firm. They looked to be in trouble for a moment, but then the aforementioned natural hat trick got them over to the Eastern Conference Final for the second time in 3 years, and the only President's Trophy winning team to make it to the conference final in 2 separate decades in which they've won the President's Trophy. Make it there in the span of the last 2 decades. This one and last decade.
Yeah.
As for the Breadman, Adam Fox, well, I'll tip my hats to all the Rangers, but it just feels complete heartbreak for the Canes. I mean, now that you are in the offseason, if you're Carolina, you just got an extension done for Rod Brind'Amore as your head coach, but now what do? You have 15 free agents to take care of. 9 of them are unrestricted free agents. 6 are RFAs. And I know the Canes are prioritizing on a Gensel extension, but I can't really say the same for Martin Necas. I don't think the Canes are focusing on Necas right now, as they're constructing it to be out. I'm checking Cap Friendly again. They have $31 million to spend in the offseason. So that's also taken into consideration. But 15 free agents, they may be there's going to be a lot of shakeup here because notably it's Necas, Seth Jarvis, who are the most prominent RFAs, Gensel, Brady Shea, Brett Pesce, Anderson, not Anderson, but if we look at the UFAs, it's Shea, Pesce, Gensel, Jordan Martinook, Teuvo Teravainen, Stefan Nason, Jalen Chatfield. Those are the notable UFAs for them. I think Pesce goes. Because if you look at the financial situation, that Kotkaniemi contract and that second year to Orlov contract, that's going to hold them back.
Yeah, and those are ones that are definitely, I think, both priorities for him. I think they have to keep Getzel. Necas, maybe. I could see him getting up and leaving, though, also.
Trade, offer sheet?
Maybe.
Yep. Yeah, realistically, Necas goes. Seth Jarvis, I think, stays.
Yeah, so do I.
So Jarvis stays. Jack Drury, RFA, he stays. You got to build on his confidence. Young guy. So, not to mention that you can bring him back some depth players on some team-friendly deals, such as Martinook. I think Shea stays. I don't think Pesce stays in any way. Tony DeAngelo's gone. There's no doubt about that.
I'll be interested to see where Pesce goes. Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to go somewhere else. It'd be interesting to see who wants him.
Yeah, I think a team that's in need of defensive help at the defensive back end, I think somebody's going to give him a nice deal. I think there may be some shakeups in the offseason for Carolina. There's no doubt. But Ian did note that if things don't change for the Canes, they could be forced into an early rebuild, which they don't want.
Yeah, I think it'll just all depend on who they can keep and who they can't, and then will depend who else is out on the market this summer too. There's quite a few big names I think that are going to be up this summer, so we'll see. As you said, they got some money to spend, so
31 million.
not a terrible amount, but one or two. They can find one or two pieces to kind of help shore up that defense a little bit. Might be worth it.
You have to replace Pesci, that is.
Yeah.
So, if that's said and done, so the Rangers on to the East Final. Their opponent, the Florida Panthers, beating the Boston Bruins for a second straight year, this time in 6 games. And Matthew Tkachuk, he looked to have caused a glitch in the Matrix if we watched his celebration in Game 6, knowing that the puck was out of the zone. He started jumping for joy. Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! We beat the Bruins again. Let's go to the Eastern Conference Final. As the final buzzer sounded after Gustav Forsling with the series winner for around 1:30 left from around the same place that Montour scored this game tying going last year's Game 7 in the first round. Now this one, I feel Ian and I, we had our doubts on the Bruins even after they beat the Leafs. And this series, as added with the last 3 games of the Bruins series against the Leafs, those last 3 games against the Leafs plus this entire series reinforces every single narrative about the Bruins. Let's not lie to ourselves. Game 7 for the Bruins was more of a win for the Panthers than it was for the Bruins. I'm going to put it at that. Because it felt like Boston was just leaving Jeremy Swayman out to dry on most occasions. And the second round amplified that pain by a lot more. There wasn't even a completed pass by the Bruins. Everyone looks lost onto the ice, and the only one who was possibly showing up for the Bruins was Swayman himself.
Well, and I think just that series going to a Game 7, as you said, was a winner for the Panthers because the Bruins were exhausted and they had to turn around, 2-3 days later. I was impressed they took it 6. I thought the Panthers would get that done in 4 or 5.
I mean, Game 1, by some occasion, had us all thinking that the Bruins were taking this as a grudge match against the Panthers, but then came Games 2 through 4 where the Panthers took those wars personal. Game 5, well, the Bruins have some life. Nope! Game 6 happened, and that was the killing blow. But I'm more surprised that the Bruins made this a bit interesting here in Game 5, and also came out of the gate swinging in Game 1. But I'm surprised that the Bruins, they had some oomph left in them, but then reality struck that the Bruins, the number 1 center by committee between Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha, that's not sustainable. It's nice to have high-quality wingers in Pasternak, Marchand, Jabrusk, and to an extent, Frederick, but you still need center depth. Boston doesn't have a true number 1 center. Their hope is that Matt Poitras can develop into that, but with Coyle and Zacha as your number 1 guys, that's not sustainable.
No, and I think you got to wonder how long this iteration of the Bruins, because Marchand, Pasternak, they've both been around for what now in the Bruins organization?
I mean, Pasternak's been around for a decade now. Marchand for even more than a decade.
Yeah, over 10 years. They were both there in 2013, I believe it was, when the Bruins had the Game 7 that we remember so well here in Canada. They were both still playing for the Bruins then, I believe.
Well, Pasternak didn't arrive until the 2015 season.
Or no, sorry, Pasternak didn't arrive until 2015, but Marchand was there. I guess I don't know. I think this was their chance. I think this was their year to prove that they could go far. And now I think you're going to be looking to either rebuild or transition to maybe they can transition to a younger team without doing that. I don't know.
I guess they're a young-ish sort of team when they have Potra in the mix, Johnny Beecher in the mix. Trent Frederick is a youngish player who's in the mix. You also have Mason Lohrei in the mix. The aforementioned Swayman in the mix. Is it enough, though?
I mean, Swayman, by far, I think, is their most promising. Love what I saw from him in the series. He single-handedly carried that Bruins team at certain points. You could even say during the playoffs.
I mean, he is their team MVP. Let's be honest, throughout the playoffs, their team MVP throughout the playoffs. And there's no doubt about it. A .955 save percentage in round one, nothing to scoff at. And for Boston, you also have to take care of the situation with DeBrusk, as he is their big UFA that they have to take care of. You have $21 million to spend among 5 UFA forwards, 3 UFA defensemen, and 1 RFA forward in Jesper Boquist. Also, you have to give a new contract to Swayman. He's an RFA. I imagine that he gets a nice deal.
He'd have to, because he's going to have offers coming in. I would hope he's going to have offers coming in.
Yeah, he is.
Be nice. Maybe we could try and pull him in Toronto.
Whoa.
I would say it's a priority. Knowing our front office, it's not going to happen. But, yeah, I think first and foremost, you gotta work on retaining him, and then worry about everything else.
Yeah, I think the priority will go Swayman, DeBrusk, then everyone else. Matt Grzelcyk, he was healthy scratched for several games in the playoffs. I feel he may be on his way out of Boston. Parker Wotherspoon, cheaper addition, 26 years old. He's younger, and he has a third pairing upside to him, so that's nice for them. Mason Lohrei, younger, higher upside than Grzelcyk, so he stays as well.
Yeah, no disagreement there. I think, Grzelcyk, as you said, definitely gone. He's not going to be there to start next season.
Yeah, I feel he's gone as well. So that's that for Boston. Their season ends at the hands of the Panthers again. And what we learned for the series, the Panthers, they're deeper and they're more built, battle-tested now. It's a tougher Panthers team not saying that last year's Panthers team wasn't tough, but they built on last year's toughness to make this team an even tougher team.
They built on last year's toughness, and there was still lots of people I saw saying, the Panthers aren't going to do anything this season. When the playoffs started, they aren't going to do anything in the playoffs. Well, they're back in the conference finals against the Rangers, which I think is the matchup most of us had.
I mean, I had Panthers and Hurricanes on my bracket, so I was close enough. But Panthers and Rangers, that's also a good bet to have for an Eastern Conference final. And we got the matchup and for most people who were picking Stanley Cup picks on the bracket, they got the matchup that they wanted. Now they're at this point. Mm-hmm. So in between, we're previewing this Eastern Conference final. Now I know they're not exactly a mirror image of one another, but if you're looking at both teams, the Rangers have the advantage on scoring talent. The Panthers have the advantage on depth and defense. But you know what? Who else has the? You know what the Rangers also have in terms of advantage? Goaltending. Sergei Bobrovsky is great. Igor Shesterkin is otherworldly.
And I think the Rangers will finally be a President's Trophy team that makes the Stanley Cup final. I see this one being a close one, though. I think a 7-game series is in the works. For sure.
I mean, it has to go 7. At least 6, Anything
Yeah.
less than 6 is considered a disappointment and an epic collapse by the losing team. 6 or 7, I feel this is the only outcome of how this series will go to. You got superstars on both sides as well. You factor in Matthew Tkachuk for the Panthers, the Breadman for the Rangers. That's going to be a matchup to watch. Plus, with the line matchups in which both sides can go to, who matches up with what line? So I feel it's going to be the Panarin line against the Tkachuk line. How would that sound?
Oh man, that's an incredibly tough matchup, I would say. Yeah.
It would be. But so I feel the Panthers, they can also counter with the Barkov line on the Panarin line. That's also a nice line to have. Tarasenko, Barkov, Reinhart up against Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere. Ironically, you have a 10, a 16, and a 13 on both of lines of the Panarin line, the Barkov line. How bonkers is that?
And I would almost say the Barkov line matches up a little bit better. A Barkov line, you could say, overall, I think is more established, but Lafreniere has also shown that he's has also developed well coming out of the juniors. So
Yep, there's also that, which preaches patience when it comes to a young player's development. You want to take your time with these young players. Do not be quick to jump and put the bust label on them, otherwise you're just slamming the door straight on their faces immediately out the gates.
yeah,
With Lafreniere, they preach patience. It's year 4. I feel the career trajectory of Lafreniere were to go as advertised, I think it's kind of similar to that of Daniel Sedin. And I think it's a mere image right now of Daniel Sedin with Lafreniere.
yeah, I think that's a sound comparison.
Yeah, we can put it at that. So, the Rangers and the Panthers, evenly tight matchup. Defensively, you got 2 potential number 1 defensemen on the Panthers between Aaron Ekblad and Brandon Montour. They have a deeper defensive core. And I'm not going to discredit the Rangers because Adam Fox is a superstar on defense. Plus Ryan Lindgren, he's a heart and soul player who perfectly complements Fox's game on the other end. Keandre Miller, a high-end number 2 defenseman as well. Put him on with Braden Schneider or Jacob Trouba, he fits in nice with them. Schneider, defensive defenseman. Eric Gustafson, power play quarterback. Trouba, hard-hitting machine. But that's not to mention that on the other end, you have Nico Mikkola, a hard-hitting machine. Montour, offensive defenseman, also a power play quarterback. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, on a reduced role, still a power play quarterback who can drive the way. Dmitry Kulikov, defensive-minded defenseman. And Gustav Forsling, what a steal that contract is.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Panthers, as you said, kind of when we opened the series preview, not night and day, but it's pretty close when it comes to the defensive pairings. I think the Panthers have the clear advantage by quite a margin.
Yeah, I mean, it's there. Though the Rangers, they can close that gap anytime, but the Panthers, they do have the advantage. Excuse me there, but if we're looking for series predictions, I know we were expecting 6 or 7 games out of these two. So if you were to pick a team to go to the Stanley Cup final, who lifts or touches or doesn't touch the Prince of Wales trophy?
Tough one, but I'm gonna say Rangers in 7.
Yeah. I like that confidence that you have with the Rangers. I mean, with the way they're built around. I feel you could pick either one of these two teams. You would not be wrong with a pick on this one. I feel the Rangers, they have the better goaltending of the two of them. And I know when they say defense wins championships, that is true. But sometimes your best defender is your goaltender. And Shesterkin gives the Rangers a clear advantage on the goaltending department. He can steal games for the Rangers when warranted. I know New York lost in this exact round of the playoffs just 2 years ago. I don't think this happens this time around. I'm going with the same prediction as you. Rangers in 7. To make it sweeter, series winning. My pick for series winning goal, I'll give it to Chris Kreider.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Maybe Panarin.
Panarin is also a good bet. I mean, does break my heart that Panarin had the series winner against us in the first round 2 years back. I don't want to think about it. But, well, so that's that for the East. Shifting over to the Wild West. And speaking of the Wild West, there is some measure of revenge on some specific players around. You know, when a former player wants to get the series winner on the team they first played for. We had that exact scenario in Denver, Colorado in Game 6 between the Stars and Avalanche. Remember Matt Duchene, Avs? He's out for blood. And he just got a double overtime winner against you guys. And when he was shoved to the net by Cale Makar, when it looked like he was lightly pushed to the net, they ruled it goaltender interference on the basis that Duchene entered the crease, but Makar pushed him to the net. I'm just not sure about that call. But Duchene made sure to end the series in the second overtime of Game 6. This was a topsy-turvy series in many ways. The Avalanche had a comeback from down 3-0 in Game 1. They nearly had a comeback from down 4-0 in Game 2. Got smacked in Games 3 and 4. Trounced on the Stars in Game 5. Then Jake Ottinger had the last laugh in Game 6. How we're putting up with this thus far for the playoffs, we're looking at good series. Many were anticipating for this to be the best series. Well, it was a good series. Wasn't the best, however, but this was still a good series. Nathan McKinnon was great. Dallas's depth, showing why depth is valuable to go with your star players.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of concern the Avalanche weren't going to make it a good series. At least at the beginning. Of course, they more or less did. I'm not surprised to see the Stars in the Western Conference Finals, though. I honestly, I'd say this would have been my finals matchup. Assuming if Vancouver had not been so injury prone, it might have been Stars Canucks. I would have predicted, but Stars Oilers, no real surprises. Having Dallas in the Western Final.
No surprise there. I mean, Dallas, they are the deepest team in the Central Division, so it's not really surprising on why they made it to the Western Conference Final with the depth that they had. Colorado, they did make it a fight, but they have some depth on them, just not the type of depth that Dallas has. Considering the Stars, to go with Jason Robertson and Rope Hintz, yet the emergence of Wyatt Johnston becoming a star this season. I'm not ready to put him at superstar status, but he is a star in the making. Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, Mason Marchment, Matt Duchene, even the newest cult hero of the Stars, Logan Stankoven, 5'8", and he's already lighting the lamp.
Yeah, Stankoven really did break. He really has broken out this playoffs, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. In the tail end of the regular season as well. Sorry, I was sidetracked for a bit there, but with Colorado, I've been looking around for their free agent situation as we get Ian joining us right now. How are you?
I'm good, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw
sorry.
the text. Yeah. You're
Yeah.
all good.
All right, sorry. The connection's gonna be a bit spotty. I'm out in rural country, so we'll see how this goes.
So yeah, so Redbox and I already went for the Eastern Conference. So Ian, and who you're seeing on the profile picture, that is Redbox, and Redbox, meet Ian. He is
What up? What up?
Yeah. What's up?
What's up?
so we already made our East predictions. So I know for a fact that to take away from what we saw in that Eastern Conference second round, doing a bit of a lightning round as we want to get to your East prediction. So for the Rangers, the Canes outworked them. That's true. But at the same time, the Rangers outsmarted the Canes, which is also true. What we thought was a competitive, close series turned out to be one-sided at first before the Canes had hopes of a reverse sweep. Then Chris Kreider had one of the greatest individual efforts in Rangers playoff history in that third period. We were both there.
Yeah. Okay, lightning round. Just what I've seen from the Rangers in Florida. I still think it's Florida that gets through, but it's gonna take a while. At least 6 or 7 games, but Florida comes out on top.
Gotta make a prediction here. So, do you see it going in 6 or in 7 games for the Panthers in going back to the Stanley Cup final?
It's gonna take 7 because the Rangers are gonna stick around.
Better goaltending helps around. And the Panthers, yeah, you did know about that even though the first round series between the Bruins and the Leafs really didn't prove much of anything for the Bruins because the last 3 games plus the entirety of that second round against the Leafs reinforced the narratives that the Bruins have kept along. No, there will be no 2020 Lightning story for them.
Exactly. So there's that. Sorry, I'm right by a busy road, and there's no good places. So, have you guys already? So you talked about the Eastern Conference. Have you talked about the West yet?
We're already in the
we're-
West. So we're currently on
All right.
Dallas and Colorado.
Well, let's face it. This is probably the most complete team Dallas has had in years. I mean, you have a mix of both. Well, you have a mix of veteranosity and skill. Skilled veterans with an excellent mix of young guns. I mean, let's go with the usual cast. You have Tyler Sagan. You have Jamie Benn. You have who else is an old guy on the Dallas Stars?
Or we're talking about the old core, the veteran core round. You could bring up Joe Pavelski and Ryan Suter, who are both 39 years old. Pavelski, he didn't score until the second round, but he's still reliable.
Exactly. But then, you got the experience, you got the experience there. And then you got Jason Robertson. And then you got Wyatt Johnson. And then there's another kid that they have who can score, but I'm forgetting his name.
Are we speaking the rookie Logan Stankoven?
I thought it was another guy, but that
Hintz, Rope Hintz.
yes, him.
Yeah.
And then enough can't be said about the Otter.
Jake Ottinger. Not to mention Miro Heiskanen and Thomas Harley, the number 1 pair. They're both young.
Yep. Them too. It's just they have a very complete team. And the fact of the matter is, look, let's be real. Colorado had an outside shot, but they just
wasn't a great one.
Yeah. I mean, what they were going with was, hang on. I mean, what Colorado had going in was they weren't expected to do much of anything. No one really looked at them as, hey, this team is going to run the West. Truth be told, I think they made it. Their first round opponent. Well, I forget who their first round opponent was.
For Colorado?
Yeah,
Winnipeg.
exactly. Winnipeg was supposed to stop them, and Colorado exposed them as frauds.
I wish
So
I
there was
had-
that.
I wish I had an Uno reverse card to display what Colorado did to Winnipeg when we were expecting a competitive 7-game series between the Avs and the Jets. I don't have an Uno card deck.
Yeah, and truth be told, I don't remember all I said, but here's what's true. I never trusted Winnipeg. I felt like their record was a little fraudulent, just because it seemed. Because when you look at the opponents they would beat, yeah, some of them were quality opponents, but it almost felt like in a lot of those games they get lucky or bailed out by Hellebuck. And once again, it was, if Hellebuck is not on his game, you're screwed. Guess what happened? He collapsed.
I mean, how in the world does Winnipeg allow 5 goals per game?
Which, that's what happens when you rely almost exclusively on one player, though. And I honestly thought they would survive at least the first round. I didn't think they were going to go anything beyond that. But I thought they'd at least get through the Avs.
Yeah, that's the surprise. It's frustration if you're a Jets fan watching your team get stopped like this.
Yeah, but that's why. Oh, sorry, my bad.
You win as many games in the playoffs as you had last year with that flame out.
Yeah, it's just, and now Winnipeg. Honestly, the Jets should just flatten it. Start again, because whatever is going on with the current regime is not working. You can't. I'm going to say it. Congratulations, except for 1 year, your team still can't make it past the second round of the playoffs. You can't even make it past the first round of the playoffs.
Oh, going the tree route, I see. Well, we're not going that same route for Colorado. It looked like they were going to make it interesting, but it was just not meant to be. Their depth is good, but they're not as deep as Dallas is. Colorado, there are a lot of questions to be had. It's easier said than done that they'll be back, but projected cap space is $15 million for next season when they account for the return of Gabe Landeskog. Valeri Nichushkin is going to be out until November because he failed a drug test. He's put on stage 3 of the player assistance program. If he violates that, he effectively goes into stage 4 and will be suspended for a full year. Reinstatement, if you're on stage 4, is not guaranteed.
Oh. Yeah. It's not looking good in Colorado. I mean, at this point, how it's looking for Colorado, it's one of those, thank goodness you won that cup, because it's not looking so good for you.
It's a mess right now. I mean, you have Nichushkin plus the mystery situation for Landeskog with 5 years left on his contract. Whether he returns next year, I feel if he returns, It'll be a feel-good story if he comes back. We just don't know how he's going to look like next season. Will he be back in form, or if he's going to be like Clay Thompson right now?
I don't think Landeskog comes back as the regardless, he's not coming back as the Landeskog of old, unless he has an arc. Again, I'm crossing sports, but unless he has a Justin Verlander arc where he comes back from his injury, Justin Verlander came back from Tommy John, and then at the age of 39, won the Cy Young Award by cutting down everyone. Unless Landeskog has that kind of arc, he's all Colorado can really hope for is that he's a shell of what he used to be, and that he can still provide useful minutes. But it's not gonna be the same.
Yeah, I don't feel so. What say you on Landeskog, Redbox?
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think he's gonna come back to be what he used to. Be interesting to see if they can try and sell him off somewhere else, but that would be I'm sure they'd take a hit doing that with his contract, as you mentioned. And then who would be willing to take that on? I don't know. Probably not many.
I was writing that down about selling him off to somewhere else, because that is interesting when you know about the selling off to someone else. Given that he has been injured for the last 2 seasons, you got Nathan MacKinnon under contract up until what I believe is 2031. Yes, it is 2031. Kel McCarr under contract until 27. Devon Taves until 2031. So you have most of the core around. Mikko Rantanen, however, next season is a contract year for him. He's on the final year of his current deal at $9.25 million. So he'll be doing a new contract soon. Not to mention that you have 8 UFAs plus Casey Middleton, who's an RFA. So you have to prioritize. I feel you prioritize Middlestat now.
Yeah.
Drouin, Duhaime, Trennan, Cogliano, Sean Walker. Those are the 5 notable UFAs for them. I wonder if Walker comes back for Air Colorado, but he didn't have a point for them in the playoffs. That series, he never had a single point for the Avs in the playoffs.
I don't know. But, yeah, man, Colorado is just right now they're in a place of uncertainty, and there's nothing that can be, there's nothing that they can really do, because they're, like, you just laid out the contracts. It's not so much how much the contracts are, where will all of those players be when those contracts come to an end? What I mean is, how old will they be? I mean, most of those guys, they lock them up to long-term contracts. They have to be in their 30s by the time they come to an end.
Mm-hmm. As is mentioned about McKinnon and Taves, who are on long-term deals. They're locked in for 28-31. Landeskog, he's 31 now. His contract ends in 29.
29, so, oh, Jesus, he's 31 now. He'll be 30, what?
36.
36, yeah, so that right there, I mean, look, Colorado has got to be careful with how they sign their guys back, or how they sign them back, or else they could be looking at a San Jose Sharks situation.
They have to. They feel if you keep Rantanen around, say if they were to give Rantanen a new contract now, would you imagine it being at what? Speaking of the San Jose Sharks, would you imagine a new Rantanen contract being 8 years?
Hey, Alec. Sorry, I have to say goodbye to everyone, but I'll try and rejoin you if I can.
Right, no worries. It's all good, Ian. See you around.
See you, man.
Yeah, so what we were discussing with Ian earlier, so say if you were to give Rantanen an 8-year deal, would that be realistic?
That seems a little steep to me. 8 years, maybe.
He's 27. Let's factor that in.
Yeah. I'd say they give him a long-term deal, but I think 8's pushing it a bit. Maybe a 5 or 6-year deal with an option. I don't know.
6 years can be. I mean, would you give it around at a higher value, maybe at least 10 million for what he's worth if you want to go out Rantanen?
Yeah.
Plus, with the salary cap ceiling increasing this season, there's going to be more leverage on how these players are going to be paid out. And I feel Rantanen is going to be the benefactor of a higher salary next season.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
And for sure. So, but Colorado, they have to be careful of how they lay out things. They got a Stanley Cup in their window. I feel it's starting to close right now. That Stanley Cup window.
Yeah, if it hasn't already.
Yeah, if it hasn't, then it's starting to close. Now, for the series that you thought would be a great series, I thought it would be over in 5. Boy, was I wrong. And I'm glad I was wrong because we got peak entertainment out of this Northwestern North American series. The Vancouver Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers took a 7-game beatdown. 6 of the 7 games decided by 1 goal. 1 of them needed overtime. 4 of them needed late game heroics. In the end, it was the Oilers in 7 games advancing to the Western Conference Final. If you got popcorn for this series, glad you got your popcorn for that series. You must be covered there. You'd be wanting more and more popcorn for what's about to commence in the conference finals. Takeaways from this Canucks Oilers series to start off. We'll begin with you.
Well, I can't remember what I said at the start of this round, but I think I had either the Canucks or Oilers. I definitely had it going 7. I think the Canucks, if they had been healthier, this would have been not a walk in the park for them, but they very well could. They could have taken it in 5. I think quite easily. Now, of course, your top 2 goalies were gone at the start, and then you have a few other pieces that were lost throughout. The Oilers just they were able to play it right. In Game 7, they jumped out to a 3-0 lead, and of course, the Canucks did what the Canucks, or they tried to do what the Canucks do best, and come back in the third on a 3-goal rally. They ultimately couldn't get that third one in, although they certainly were not short of chances in the later stages of that one.
I mean, it was close for them. Just didn't end up the way they wanted to be. But then again, late game heroics was the name of the game for games.
Oh, yeah.
Games 2, 4, 5, and 7. Game 4, it was an Evan Bouchard ripper right after a tying goal from Dakota Joshua. Bouchard with 40 seconds left. Game 5 was JT Miller, 31.9. Game 7 wasn't in the form of a goal, but rather a series-sealing block by Matthias Janmark. An absolute insanity of Game 7s. You were saying?
Yeah, and I think, when it was 3-0 at the end of the second, I thought it was over. And then, Vancouver got 1 back. I'm like, okay. I think it was Miller that scored it.
Garland.
Then, yeah, after 3-2, I figured anything was possible. And again, they had chances in the third period that they couldn't convert. It could have been a 3-all game, could have gone to overtime, and the series could have gone entirely differently.
Everything changed when Chris Knobloch used a timeout in game 7 after the second goal from Philip Hronek. Knobloch using that timeout helped the Oilers in the end, and it paid off as well. But when you put yourselves in a hole in shots on goal, down 23-4 in Game 7, that's not a recipe of success. I know the Canucks were fighting back, but you put yourselves in that hole, you're not going to win the majority of the games. I get Game 3 against Nashville. That's an albatross. It's not sustainable. Whew. We need some more deep breaths for this series because of the absolute insanity. Mind you, Connor McDavid was held on a point in 4 of the 7 games. I understand if we're all getting some more deep breaths around here, but the Oilers' step was tested throughout the series.
It was.
And they responded.
It was, and I think, again, the problem with the Oilers, as we were kind of alluding to earlier, their defensive depth could leaves a lot to be desired. They're probably one of the best defensive teams in the league, but like so many teams, apparently it's a theme this playoffs. They could just use a little bit more depth on defense.
I mean, they did get that defensive turnaround with Matthias Ekholm, Evan Bouchard, plus the forwards when they got Sam Carrick, when they got Adam Henrique. Well, Henrique didn't play for much of this series, but also you have to account for Janmark, Derek Ryan, Connor Brown, even Zach Hyman got involved in some of it. Brett Kulak, underrated defensive piece. Vinny Desharnais, big physical body who can punish others with a 6'6" frame. So, if we were to be honest about the Oilers, as we're learning more and more about the playoffs, about them in the playoffs, they're good offensively, and they're stout defensively, with the turnaround from Paul Coffey as their assistant coach to help out the defense. Goaltending, however, hasn't really changed despite this series victory.
No.
Stuart Skinner, Calvin Pickard, it's not really your ideal 1-2 tandem. Even though Pickard has played the better of the two between them and Skinner, I don't think this is a goaltending tandem that can take the Oilers all the way to the top.
No, I agree, and I think the Oilers are going to get exposed in the Eastern Conference Finals on multiple fronts, goaltending being one of them. I don't know if we're quite to series predictions yet, but I certainly don't see them taking it all the way.
Oh, I would be legitimately shocked if they make it to the Stanley Cup Final to start being soft. I'm not making a series prediction now, but this leads us to the previews of the Western Conference Final between the Stars and the Oilers. I know the Oilers have that one series victory over the Stars in 1997, that Curtis Joseph save and the Todd Marchant breakaway goal. But ever since, it's been all Stars in that mini rivalry in the late 90s and early 2000s. I feel the Stars historically have dominated this one. I don't see this going out quickly as it was, but Dallas clearly has the tactical advantage on all three fronts. Offense, defense, goaltending. Coaching-wise, This is where it gets interesting between Knobloch and Peter DeBoer.
Yeah, I agree there. I think, again, the Stars are just overall a deeper team, and I mean, I don't know if there's a whole lot more to say.
I mean, we don't want to sound like a broken record saying this, but clearly the Stars have the depth advantage. The Otters been on another level in the playoffs, though DeBoer is a really interesting coach in both good and bad ways. The good part is he can squeeze out the maximum of the offensive talent that he can work with, as was shown with San Jose, with Vegas, with New Jersey in his previous coaching tenures. The bad is that he doesn't adjust to opponents, and somehow that manages to Not somehow. And he doesn't adjust to his opponents, and that leads him to getting burnt deeper down for the series. Vegas experienced this. San Jose experienced this. And if signs are any indication, Dallas could experience it at one point, but so far, that's not been the case.
Well, so far they haven't, but they haven't had to yet either. It hasn't really been put in a scenario like that
I mean,
in Dallas,
not really.
right?
Well, save for last year when Dallas went down 3-0 against Vegas in the conference final with DeBoer as the Stars head coach. It's kind of crazy when you think that DeBoer has been to the 2019, 2020, 2021, 2023, 2024 conference finals. That's 5 of the last 6 conference finals that DeBoer has been to. He's lost the 4 prior, in which he has coached with San Jose, Vegas, and Dallas. You think he may be due for one this time around. Is that who you lean towards? Dallas, I'm guessing?
Yeah, you'd think. I'd say Dallas in 5 or 6. You'd think it's time for him. It's the right matchup. I love the Oilers. I love it that we have a Canadian team in the final. But I think I even said this at the start of the series. I had the Oilers getting through the Canucks, but I thought the Canucks would probably have the better shot in the conference finals against Dallas, and I stand behind that. I think
Which makes the loss of Brock Besser even more brutal. Blood clots are no joke.
nope.
Man, that was an unfortunately timed blood clot. Just absolutely brutal for Vancouver. You're on the cusp of winning a series, then you get that news. Plus, paired with the loss of Thatcher Demko and Casey DeSmith, you just run out of gas. Not to mention that you average 20 shots on goal. That's not sustainable. Yeah, as for my prediction in the Western Conference Final, I too lean Dallas. I'll give it 6 games, however. I feel Edmonton will make it a series with their high-end talent and their defense, but I would be amazed if the Oilers do make it to the Stanley Cup Final. In which, in such case, if it were an Oilers-Rangers series, boy, ESPN is going to be promoting that like crazy.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think ESPN wants the Oilers to win the series. Well, maybe McDavid would be good for ratings. I don't know how well he does down there in the States, though.
I mean, because if you think about it, the Rangers are basically ESPN's golden boy.
Of course, yeah.
Because New York team, largest market in sports, they're going to get a lot of discourse. Just
Rangers, Knicks, Yankees,
Yeah, all of that. So we pretty much have a Rangers Star Stanley Cup Final. This is where we stop all the talking and let the games speak for themselves.
Exactly.
And that's pretty much going to do it here for this episode. Do we have any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
Again, I just want to say I'm glad we finally have a Canadian team back in the conference finals. I hope this round's as good as the last one. Although again, as I said, I have my doubts. I'll be watching as much of it as I can. Hopefully, all of it. But yeah, that's all for me.
Yes. Glad to have you with us, Redbox. Thanks for joining here in this episode of Let's Get Crackin', where we talk the NHL and all other sports. I'll be with you in touch shortly afterwards for a preview of the Stanley Cup Final once we wrap up the conference finals. Alongside Redbox, I am Alex saying so long, and let's play that hockey tomorrow. Good night.